May 18th, 2021, 6 p.m. I call to order this Oconee County Council meeting. Start with public comment session. Each person is allowed 4 minutes. After 3 minutes, I'll hold up the sign saying 1 minute left. At 4 minutes, I'll hold up the red sign. Matthew Smith.
Hello, Council. I'm Matthew Perry Smith. I'm from District 4. I'm here today to discuss the budget process that's up for vote and needless spending in our county of taxpayers' money. All of you was elected to be good stewards to protect the citizens from overspending. I was at the county council meeting when the split was 3-2 on the magistrate's office, so I done a little digging. You spent $165,000 of taxpayers' money on an empty lot in Westminster, needlessly. It was purchased to remodel. You left the roof open, and you let the weather destroy this church. And now you're going to have to demo it. Yes, I do think you deceived the public. You deceived the rest of the council. You misrepresented your intentions of this purchase. You wanted to demo it anyway. So yes, I think your actions was less than honorable on this purchase. If this was your money, what would you have done? Would you have just let it sit there and rot, or would you have taken care of it? And I do believe that Mayor Ramey said in an interview to the Journal that he didn't know why you purchased this thing anyway, because they had land already that you could have used. You didn't have to purchase this. They had land. Mayor Ramey, he's a builder, by the way. He knows where you can build things, and I don't think the hole's a problem back behind where he wanted you to build it. Due diligence. I don't think so. You should have just let the mayor take care of this. Maybe he could have given you guys some good, I don't know, help. Mr. Davis, Ms. Brock, you should have just stayed out of purchasing this property. You obviously lack the vision to purchase something without overspending the taxpayers' money. You also lack the vision to see that old historic buildings can be restored and look really nice. If you don't believe me, look at what Keith Denny's done to Stitches in Westminster, or better yet, go visit his office up here in Walhalla. Look how nice it is. There's a lot of historic buildings right there together, you know. You could have really made those look beautiful for the city. You know, all of you are challenged as government officials to spend taxpayer money as it's your own. You don't have a blank check to taxpayers' money, although some of you think you do, in my opinion. I mean, a 3,000 square foot building for the magistrate should only cost, at today's rates, $450,000, but $1 million? Let's talk about the 322 acre thorn farm on Highway 59. It costs the taxpayers $13 million that there's nothing being done with, just sitting there. I bet there's some good deer down there. Let's talk about the $75,000 study for the Greenway Trail. You want this to be like the Swamp Rabbit Trail, but you know, this is not the role of government. You're supposed to protect taxpayers' money. There's meth houses all over this county that need to be policed, but you want to spend millions of dollars on a walking trail. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to work some black magic to get the land for this? You're going to sacrifice a goat? Mr. Kane, what are you going to do? Zone your way to the miles? You're going to take all this land from the public so you can put your walking trail? Mr. Davis, you need to start working for District 4 because we have no idea who you are. You don't do anything for us. I think Seneca has enough people working for them, and you need to start working for us. District 4, you should have came to our meeting. You was too scared to.
Peter Bill, sorry.
You did all right. Fellas, I'm here to try to solve a problem that I've been up against. And I'm gonna start right off the bat. I've already been to South Carolina to Public Works, to the Ethics Committee, everybody I could talk to. And the gentleman down there finally from Public Works gave me a phone call. I actually had a voice that I could talk to. And he told me that I'm trying to find a square corner in a round room. And what it pertains to is the article of the Westminster. Now, I understand Westminster runs its own water board. Okay, they do what they want to, they can do what they want to. But they're getting ready to raise some rates. And they're gonna raise the rates in the county, utility rates for the water, 4.5%. But they're not gonna charge the people that live in the city any money. So how does that work? You guys are here to represent me. I'm a county, I've got a voter ID and registration in my card that goes back to 1980. I carry it next to my DD 214 and next to my BA card. I'm proud of that stuff. And I'm proud to be a voter. And I'm proud to have you guys here. But I think there needs to be something done to protect the people that live in the county that have to pay these rates. We've been charged a bill called the AMI for new meters that were put in. I had no problem with that. That bill was paid off 6 months ago, I think. We're still paying $7 a month for that. Up until this fellow by the name of Bronson took over down here, the girls at the city would laugh when I went and asked them about the rate changes, were they going to take them off or not. But it's like me making an obligation to you, or you making an obligation to me to pay X number of dollars for so many months, and then after that, after I go ahead and pay my obligation up, you're telling me I've got to keep it going, otherwise you're going to cut my water off. So there's some things going that I think that the county and district, I'm in District 2. I don't know how many other people that are on the water system, for Westminster, but I think that's a pretty sorry thing, and I think it's all because of voting. Why would you want me to have to pay the rates to take care of the city? There's people in the city probably on low income. I'm retired. So, I'm no rich guy. The guy's on unemployment making more than I am right now. So that's my question to y'all, is I would like to see some kind of information put out, or at least the county step up and go to the city and say, what are you doing on this thing? How come you're doing this? And I also like to know one thing too, if we do pay this, I'd like some accountability on where my money goes. They've got a water system that's completely rotted out. They've got a pump system that won't work. And I talked to Miss Denny, who's over the system now, and she told me that she's obligated for like $1 million for a piece of equipment that goes on the outlet side of the system. They bought it before they bought the new pumping system. So I think we ought to have at least some accountability to see what's going on. So I hope I got the point out to y'all, and you guys are here to represent us, and I appreciate that, but I'd like to see some information and at least some kind of some kind of people that, I find out about it in the paper, for Christ's sakes. Why can't they get a piece of paper and send it out to the county and let us know what's going on? So I'm just sick and tired of having to spend my money. It goes along with what he said about taxes and about things like that. So, fellas, that's what I got to say, and I hope you can help out.
Can you please state your name for the record? Can you state your name for the record?
Peter, Double Aqua.
Thank you.
Yep.
Luke Moore.
Hey everybody, my name's Luke Moore. Got a couple of things I want to talk about. One, Mr. Smith mentioned that expensive piece of property down there off of 59. Well, if that was taxpayer money, I think I want permission to deer hunt that. I mean, if I paid part of it. That looks like a really nice piece. But either way, I believe we've done this thing here a little out of order today. Pledge of Allegiance comes down there like on the fourth thing, maybe fifth. Why in the world did we not start this with the Pledge of Allegiance and then the moment of silence or the prayer? It shows that our focus is not on appreciation of this country we get to live in. But that's what I want to talk about, is how some of that crap's not appreciated. There's something coming our way, and you guys are going to see it pretty soon. It's called critical race theory, and it's coming towards our schools. I know some of you probably know what it is, and you heard about it. And basically, it's anti-American. And I want to point out how, if we would have read that if we would have quoted that Pledge of Allegiance, you would have understood that it says, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Critical race theory comes in, that word indivisible, gone. It says, you're white, you're an oppressor. If you don't agree that you're an oppressor, then because you disagree with it, that's systematic showing that you don't realize that you're an oppressor, but you are anyways. And therefore, you need to feel ashamed of yourself. Now, I've got babies that are 8 and 10 years old that's coming through this school. And this stuff's coming. It's right over. People in Walhalla are talking about calling kids skates and skateboards because they can't call them boys and girls. Bull crap. Oconee County, you guys are here to represent us. I want your help. I want your help for my family. I want your help for every family sitting here. There's a young lady right there. She is not responsible for what happened several hundred years ago. It is not her fault. And I don't want to see it taught in our schools that that young lady should feel guilty and ashamed of who she is. There's a lady over here. I don't know how you feel about this, but hopefully you don't feel like you have to be a victim, because you don't. But that's what it's going to teach them. It's going to teach you that if you're a certain race, you're the oppressor. If you're the other race, you are the oppressed. And it divides people by race. Anything that divides people by race is a problem. It's a major problem. We're supposed to be one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Liberty and justice for all, not for whites, not for any other race, for all. Every single person that comes through here gets the same opportunity. Well, I see sign. We need to be focusing on teaching. We need to be focusing on teaching our families and our kids. This history did happen, and no, it ain't pretty, and no, it ain't nice. But as soon as you start blocking that out and not teaching it, what happens is we're doomed to repeat the same process over and over. And if you take two kids and put them in the classroom, and you tell one, you're the oppressor of this one, and you tell this one, you're going to be oppressed by this one, naturally because of who you are, there's going to be a divide. So it's going to start right then. It's going to grow, it's going to get worse, and over time, this one is going to have a better chance to succeed than this one. But what they're going to do is they're going to make them hate each other. But I'm going to tell you what, this government that runs this country, the one thing they need to be scared of is a united people. And what they're doing is they're bringing this kind of junk to us to divide us, because as long as we're fighting amongst ourselves, we don't fight the crap Joe Biden's doing. Either way, I wanted to say that, and before I leave, I rode my motorcycle up here. Please don't do spending those stinking money on no other pet projects until we get these potholes fixed. We're going to kill somebody. We have 4-inch deep potholes on the way here. If my tire goes off in that thing, I'm going to go over the handlebars. We have to pay attention. I want to see my money fix the roads right here, and I want to see our people representing us do what's best for our children. So I'm asking for your help. Anybody who's got the backbone to stand up and stand against this, because you're going to be called racist, but anybody that's got the backbone to do it, I want your help. Thank you.
David Cooper.
Evening. I wanted to speak on ordinance 2021-11, protection of historic memorials. My name's David Cooper. I'm from Westminster. I'm a teacher of 15 years, and I'm a combat Army veteran of 23 years. I'm with my beautiful daughters, Delaney and Madeline. They're with me tonight because they are the future of this country. As Americans and as Southerners, it's absolutely vital that our citizens learn and understand our history. accurate history. Without knowing our past, we will never understand ourselves, our highs, lows, our struggles and achievements as a nation. We have much to be proud of. Unfortunately, for years now, many Americans do not know their history. It has become marginalized in schools throughout the United States, and we have paid dearly for our personal and professional choices. I have deployed overseas on 5 occasions. 4 of these deployments were in Afghanistan and in the Middle East. Beginning in the late 1990s, the world was shocked to see terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS destroy monuments throughout the region because they were deemed offensive and did not fit their ideology. Ladies and gentlemen, today in our own nation, monuments are being torn down, defaced, destroyed by the ignorant and the followers. Shockingly, some people justify it, and as of last week, our current president has overturned the protection of our national monuments. When I left active duty in 2017, I wanted my daughters to live in a region with a proud culture, heritage, and history, the Southland. As our elected representatives, I ask that this council continue to do the right thing and further protect all monuments and historical markers throughout our county while increasing the penalties. And in my opinion, those penalties don't just need to be monetary. I believe that they should be also include incarceration, jail time. Those are the people who do these things, frankly, care nothing for our nation and desecrate our history. Memorial Day is the end of this month, a day where all soldiers are to be remembered for their ultimate sacrifice. The least we can do is honor and protect their memory with their monuments and historical markers while learning of their sacrifice now and in the future. In the words of George Orwell, quote, "The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history." Thank you for your time.
If I can follow up on that. That was amazing. I'm here to talk about historic markers too, and I want to thank you all for what you are doing to protect our monuments here in Oconee County. I'm also a veteran, like David, and I taught school for 32 years, so I have an interest in history and our youth. The county has put up several historic markers in the past years. I have a list, I think you have the same list, 10 historic markers that were put up in the county by the Arts and Historical Commission. So actually, our taxpayers are paying for these monuments through the Arts and Historical Commission funding. There are also monuments at the county courthouse, in the Veterans Park, and at the Law Enforcement Center. So those come under county jurisdiction also. But what we're concerned about is the monuments out in the unincorporated areas of the county, not in the city limits of each municipality, but throughout the county. So I hope we go ahead with this. I hope you gentlemen will vote to approve the ordinance for our monuments here in the county. It means a lot to a lot of people. Thank you.
Can you say your name for the record?
State your name for the record, please. We
My
know
name
who you
is
are, I promise.
Luther Lyle.
We know you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
John Gallen?
That's something I want to pass out before I start, and I'll explain what this is all about. One for you. One for you. One for you. Oh, I'm sorry, mine fell. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, I was at the Oconee Republican Party Convention on April 10th. The people made their dissatisfaction with rhinos, Republicans in name only, clearly evident. The huge turnout said a lot. I believe the winds of change for replacing rhinos is happening nationwide. And so I was at a dollar store the day after the convention, and these plaques literally jumped off the shelf. I couldn't resist. The plaques say, out of office, and there were only 3 available. The right number for this council. And I'm sorry if you gentlemen are offended. I mean no ill will. I just believe your days as council members are numbered, and I wish you well in your transition to private endeavors. Okay, on your agenda at the last meeting, the council listened to a representative from the Appalachian Council of Governments. The Appalachian Council and other non-governmental organizations, such as 10 at the top, use taxpayer and corporate funding to encourage local governments to implement policies in line with United Nations Sustainable Development Plans. Sustainable development is also known as Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and now the Great Reset. This free money, which Paul Kane refers to, is used to chip away at the foundations of our freedom. The protagonists of this Great Reset say, you will own nothing, and the people will be happy owning nothing. But I say, no one will be happy once they succeed in destroying our republic, ordinance by ordinance, council by council, nationwide. Local governments and councils could stop the destruction of the republic, but are hooked on this free money. I have said all this before to this council on many occasions, and to date you fail to see that you are being duped and used to strip Americans of their fundamental right to own property. Again, free money is used as a tool to undermine property rights with the goal of destroying our American republic. As to the mask ordinance, your third reading is tonight. I will say this. You are being lied to by your government and the mainstream media. The truth is that real science is contrary to their messaging. The pandemic is a tool used by planners playing on your fears while profiting global interests as they encourage people to be compliant, willing to settle for less freedom. Well, maybe you can't handle the truth, but here it is in a nutshell. There is no pandemic. It's a planned demic designed to separate you from your freedom. And I remind you that you are not descended from fearful people. Our fathers landed on the beaches of Normandy under a hail of bombs and bullets to defend those freedoms that you so thoughtlessly give away as you comply with unfounded, unscientifically supported orders, setting a horrible example for our children. And our children will pay a heavy price for your short-sighted ignorance. We should pass to succeeding generations a free and prosperous nation. Instead, we're leaving them bankrupt with a totalitarian government. Ordinary folks will own little to nothing, following the path of countries which embrace socialism and communism. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Don Dale, Damascus.
David McMahon.
Gentlemen, ladies, my name's David McMahon. I'm the new chair for the Oconee County Republican Party, and I'm just here to talk about good news. To give you an update, there are people all across this county now that are excited about what's going on in the county. We've actually reorganized 13 precincts that were unorganized prior to our leadership being brought in. We went from 90 delegates in Oconee County to 426 delegates, and I'm hoping everybody be proud of that because we're actually bringing in young people. Young people are getting interested in the Republican Party. I just want to let you guys know that we're here for you. We're here to help you guys any way we can. I know that all you guys are Republicans, and I know that we probably have differences of opinions, but we're taking a conservative movement in Oconee County. Folks are excited. They want to see action in their local government. The old leadership admitted to me that they were interested in state and local issues. The new Republican leadership is interested in state, local, and national. So local is a big part. Everything begins locally, from local to state to national. So that's what we're going to be a part of. We're going to be monitoring school board meetings, county council meetings. We're going to be heavily involved. We're going to be having debates. Debates are missing in this county. We're going to be doing that so that people can be informed. The local newspaper doesn't intimidate us. We know what they're all about, and we just laugh about their remarks they make about us. It's kind of funny to me. So we're okay with that. So we're moving ahead full steam. We're here to help you. I'm also here to support the monument, to help protect our monuments. It's un-American to go and erase our history. I know Mr. Elliott said that the Heritage Act took care of all that. It does not. It does not put any teeth in protecting our monuments. As Americans, we need to protect our monuments, and I believe in Oconee County we're going to do that. It's un-American, and it's socialism if you didn't. If you lose your history, that's what socialism is all about, lose your history, and then form a new form of government. So let's keep going with protecting our monuments. Also, I'd also want to give a shout out to good government. A person and her staff that does not get much recognition or appreciation. Some of the great stuff that she's done behind the scenes with the Utica Mill Hill, that's good government, and that's good positive things for this county. And I want to give a shout out to Miss Amanda right here and her staff. I want to pat her on the back today. She does a great job, and I want to say the Oconee County Republican Party appreciates you. Thank you.
Council member comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pete, so the Sacramento Public Service Commission, they govern the rate increases for most utilities unless you're in a municipal utility. And the train of thought in that is, well, the council in that municipality is an elected position, so the people that are served by that utility has a voice. But unfortunately, that's not always true because these municipal utilities expand outside of the city limits, which leaves people like yourself, Mr. Pete, without a voice. You know, I haven't followed the Westminster water rate increases, but it's unfortunate if they're wanting to drive up rates outside of city limit while maintaining rates inside city limit. That definitely looks political motivated. Let's raise the rates on the people who can't vote for us. I'm not sure that there's anything process-wise this council can do other than hopefully put some pressure on the city of Westminster to do the right thing. Also, with the speakers up here, it seems like there may be some friends in the audience that can help put that public pressure on too. But after the meeting, I will talk with Ms. Brock, and I'll see if there's any path to help you guys. Also, Mr. Moore, you're correct that a curriculum based on critical race theory just seeks to divide Americans instead of unite them. So again, this council, we don't set educational curriculum, but we are elected to represent the people of Oconee County. Now, there's one thing that we can do, and that is we can write a letter to the state delegation, and that would be Mr. Bill Whitmire, Mr. Bill Sandifer, Mr. Thomas Alexander. And they set education policy in Columbia, so we can formulate some sort of letter to send them to let them know that Oconee County does not support the introduction of this curriculum into our school system. I can work on the letter, we can work on it together, come up with some common ground, and maybe place it on an agenda to vote on and sign and send that to the delegation. Mr. Let's see, what was that? Mr. Lyles and Mr. Cooper. Mr. Lyles, I appreciate you coming out and reaching out to me initially too about this monument protection and what you've done for the city of Walhalla. And protecting our history is important. You know, we got to protect it, all of our history, so that the next generation knows about it. Mr. Cooper, you brought up some great points, and I appreciate you coming out and speaking. Mr. Was it Gallion? Who spoke about the property rights? Is he gone? How do you pronounce your last name? Dalen, okay. You're correct. Property rights is what's made America great. It's what set us apart from all other nations. That is the foundation of American exceptionalism, is the ability to own your own property and do with it as you will. And you're correct about outside non-governmental influences seeking to strip you of your property rights. Mr. McMahon, appreciate all you've done. You know, he's had district meetings through the whole county, and I would like to have went to all of them, but I was only able to attend 2 because of work schedule. Attended my district, District 2, and also attended District 1, and both of them was exceptional, where the people of each district had voices of concern that they wanted to raise, and some resolutions that they voted on to take matters, you know, different petitions. I believe this critical race theory came up in the District 1 meeting. Mr. Elliott also attended that meeting. That was good. And that's all. Thank you, guys.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Moment of silence, please. Mr. Root.
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this day that you've made and for making us, for giving us life. It's such a miracle that we are held together by your word, by your reasoning. Help us to be grateful and mindful of that each day, each moment, and to walk in your wisdom. And this evening, that you would give wisdom to the council members with all the myriad issues that they have to decide and work with, that you give them an eternal perspective so they can see beyond what man can see in our limited perspective, and to do the right thing and help staff to come beside them to do our part. Pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Davis, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the May 4th, 2021 regular minutes?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Brock.
Yes, sir. Again, nice to see so many people joining us this evening. It's been months without having members of the public in council chambers, so it's nice to have input in the back of the room. And as a reminder to all of council staff and anyone watching, member of our public, we are holding our second annual Team Up to Clean Up in Utica this coming Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. I did put flyers in the back of the room on the exit table. If anybody wants to join, meet us at Ann Hope Church, which is right there on the main drag at Goddard Avenue. We'll give you a job to do. We'll give you some trash bags and some gloves. We'd love to have you. And that'll be all for me this evening, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Root.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Presentation to council on Proclamation 21-07 recognizing May as the National Water Safety Month. Mr. Chase Coleman.
Yes, sir.
This works.
So my name is Chase Coleman. I work for the Foothills Area YMCA. I am the Walhalla Pool Coordinator, and we were asked by the Walhalla City Council to come and give you guys an update of what we're doing for the City of Walhalla and the partnership that we are forming. I'm also accompanied by Aquatics Director Gracie Howard and CEO Crystal Ross. So we're going to have our opening day on May 22nd for weekends only. We are holding a Safety Around Water event. This is also to accompany the Water Safety Month in May. And then we're going to have a summer kickoff on May 31st, and that's when we're going to be open on weekdays. So we offer public swim, water fitness, and swim team practices. This is kind of what our schedule is going to look like. Personally, one of my goals is to offer programming and community outreach to the City of Walhalla. So we do have a packed schedule that changed, and we're actually going to be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that's really just to give the community a place to come in a safe environment. Again, we have swim team out there, water fitness, public swim, and then we offer rentals. And then on the Safety Around Water on May 22nd, this is a free event to the entire county. This isn't just for Walhalla. We're going to hold 2 sessions from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then 11:30 to 12:30. We're going to have a youth course and a parent course, and we're going to go over some free swim lessons, basic rescuing, calling for help, basic life support, and water safety practices. Some statistics behind this is 2 kids die from drowning every single day, and 71% of the world's water. So this is something that is important not only to the Foothills Area YMCA, but it's also important to the community and the YMCA of the USA. Again, community outreach. We're going to have movie nights. We're going to have 3 of them within summer. And then we're going to partner with the Walhalla City Council and have block parties, pool parties, and things like that throughout the summer season. And we offer 2 main programs. We're going to be offering a scuba selection, and Try Scuba is a $50 session. It's just to get kids and adults, so you can be at least 10 years old to attend those, and that's just to get acclimated in the scuba environment, see if you are interested in that. And then an open water certification. We're going to have 2 sessions, and then a refresher course for the people who already have their scuba certification. We are also hosting swim lessons on those different session dates to the community. We offer scholarship programs to make them affordable, and again, our Safety Around Water program on the 22nd. We also partner with the American Red Cross. I believe there's 2 board members here today. And so they offer free online water safety courses. Those 3 are listed right there. And 90% of our lifeguards are American Red Cross certified. And so that is just one thing that, again, we find important is to find those partnerships, not only with the city, but also safety programs like great programs like the American Red Cross. And I believe that is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Payne, will you read Proclamation 2021-07?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proclamation recognizing May as National Water Safety Month. Whereas National Water Safety Month was created in June 2003, highlighting water awareness and swim safety by the World Water Park Association, the WWA. Whereas the National Recreation and Park Association, along with the WWA, launched National Water Safety Month in May 2007. And whereas in May 2009, the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance joined the partnership. And whereas in May 2010, the American Red Cross joined the coalition as a key partner. And whereas water safety education plays an essential role in preventing drownings and recreational water-related injuries. And whereas water is an attraction during the summer months, whether it be lakes, rivers, or pools, and is used for leisure, sport, or general outdoor relaxation. And whereas between January 2018 and April 2021, Oconee County had 116 water-related calls that included 7 drownings. And whereas Oconee County, along with the upstate chapter of the American Red Cross and the Foothills Area YMCA, is committed to improving the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community. Now therefore we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim May as National Water Safety Month in Oconee County, South Carolina, and urge all citizens to observe safety rules and practices when engaging in water-related recreational activities. Approved and adopted this 18th day of May, 2021. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve proclamation 2021-07?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Hang on, I got a comment.
Sure.
I find it interesting that we can pass a water safety proclamation, we can pass an organ donor proclamation, but it's beyond this council's ability to pass a resolution dedicating to resolve to protect the life of the unborn.
That's right.
That's all.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, let's see, Robert Butbella and Tiffany Santakiti, come join us.
Yes, the YMCA folks also.
Step up just a hair, right there toward the middle.
Okay.
I'm gonna stand behind you. Y'all over there. They're right here then.
Y'all get in there?
Good.
Go in.
Perfect, thank you.
One more.
Scrunch it.
Thank y'all. Public hearing for the following ordinances. Ordinance 2021-09, an ordinance amending certain provisions of the litter control ordinance of Oconee County, South Carolina. No one has signed up for public hearing 2021-09.
Mr. Elliott.
Unfortunately, work held me late. Okay, it's all rushed to get here.
Come up and say your name, please.
Mickey Haney. So, I hated that I did not read this ordinance over earlier, and I glanced through it today. And I noticed there's some things in there that we need to take under consideration. One of them is recyclable material is not under the definitions of exemptions under litter. What we need to be concerned with is not taking the ability away from those individuals that live paycheck from paycheck to be able to repair their car with the copper goods, the scrap metal, things they've collected throughout the months. They do not have funds put back. That is their emergency funds. That is their funds to buy Christmas for their kids. That needs to be in the exemption clause under the definitions. I hope y'all find it in your hearts to add that in there and take that in consideration. The other thing is under the application, provision 4 is not legal on several parts. You cannot dump bricks, concrete blocks, broken pavement, and other material on your neighbor's property, even with their permission, without having, from DHEC, a structure fill, which requires you to document that, because that property, and it cannot be larger than 1 acre, that property cannot be for a structure building after that. The other thing is, If you're allowing a neighbor to dump on your property as a class 1 landfill, let's say stumps, treetops, and trash, or not trash, but yard debris, you have to file for a class 1 landfill. The only person that can dump on your property, stumps, treetops, and yard trash, is you. So that needs to be stricken off of this ordinance entirely. The other thing that I see, you should always have a goal. And hopefully the goal of this ordinance is to reduce litter. But I'm not seeing that. And the reason I'm not seeing that is item number 5, basically the responsibility of litter that's dumped on your property by someone else, if you cannot identify them, is up to that individual to clean up and take care of. So the county representatives in the county has no skin in the game. And what it's going to do, because if you read on back in the fines that's attached to people that have these furniture and stuff like that in their yards, maybe they've been working 7 days a week and the landfill on Saturday's only open from, I think, 7 to 12. And we have failed as a county to provide adequate convenience centers similar to Pickens County that would allow furniture and stuff like that to be added in or brought to. Because we failed to them, they will dump this debris on these rural communities, these back roads. And the other thing they will dump it on is the elderly. The people that are too old, that are homebound, that cannot get out and walk their property lines. Then we're going to fine them up to $740. Plus have them clean it up. Is that humanity? No. That needs to be reworded. If stuff's dumped on you illegally, let's have the county clean it up. We don't want to put a burden on our elderly, our homebound elderly especially, because they're vulnerable as it is. The next thing, litter, number 6, item 6, litter moved by wind or force of nature. This needs to be changed to have the wording due to improper storage. The last thing you want is a guy that had, just like we had in Seneca, tornado comes through, roof blows off your house, and now you're not only responsible for the debris in your yard and putting the roof on your house, you're responsible for the debris throughout the neighborhood that came off your house, according to how this is written. And number 7 really gets me. If litter can be identified. Now remember, litter, we're talking about solid waste. If you look back to the definitions. It says can be identified and basically traced back to you. And my Latin is terrible. Prima facie, which means at first glance, is that right? Or basically you're guilty until proven innocent. Now I thought we was in America. I thought we was innocent until proven guilty. That needs stricken entirely off of there. And what should be added in that definition is that it was dumped or distributed with the intent purpose of improperly disposing of it. Because it's like any law that is broken. You got to have the means and the intent. This here is allowing the county to have a strong hand. If you get an overzealous law enforcement litter control officer that's new, and the litter control people picking up trash finds a letter, according to how this is written, he can fine you. This actually should have been 2 different ordinances. One for public right-of-ways and public properties, one for private properties, but it's not. The other thing is, when you flip on over to enforcement, you got 15 days. Now I want to play out some scenarios with you, and you're probably going to think I'm off in left field, but that's okay. Let's say a little old lady had a car leave the right-of-way, ran through her yard, hit her outbuilding, threw the debris all over the yard. She's not insured. She's homebound. According to this ordinance here, she's only got 15 days to clean it up. Where's the humanity in it? Where's y'all's heart? What it should say instead is a reasonable approved time that has come upon, or however you want to word it, between the enforcement officer and the property owner. It should take into consideration, we should not be putting such a large burden on our citizens. The other thing in the last item is 100% of the fines collected from the county and pursuant of this article shall be remitted to the Oconee Sheriff's Office to help defray cost of enforcing this article. You know, in 2002, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed on the public sector. And the reason it was passed is because of means of corruption. And no, I'm not calling our sheriff's department corrupted, but what it allows is the potential for that corruption. You've got a guy whose job, litter enforcement officer, is solely dependent upon the revenue he can generate. If we feel that this is one of the top county priorities, above drug enforcement, above taking care of the crimes and the break-ins in this county, above ensuring that our children are safe, then let's vote to have the tax increase. Put it in the people's hands. But don't allow this kind of heavy-handedness from the county. These things should be separate. But I will leave you with this. A lot of y'all are probably up there thinking this will never happen. Well, just like they was talking about history. History repeats itself. Do y'all know that Austria was not invaded by Germany, by Hitler? They voted him in. They never fathomed that he would have used his power the way he did. Do not allow these type of things to go in place under a conservative government body that can be abused by a more liberal body moving in its place. That's all I got to say.
Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I close public hearing, ordinance 2021-09. Public hearing on ordinance 2021-10. Ordinance repealing ordinance 2021-04, which required individuals to wear face coverings in certain facilities owned or operated by Oconee County. No one signed up for public hearing on 2021-10. Does anyone now want to speak? If not, I close public hearing on ordinance 2021-10. Third reading of ordinance 2021-09. An ordinance amending certain provisions of the litter control ordinance of Oconee County, South Carolina. A motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Haney reached out to me today prior to the meeting. I appreciate that. So this ordinance is not a new ordinance. It's an ordinance that's been on the books. Reason why it's coming before is there were some changes to it, primarily differentiating the responsibilities between a law enforcement officer and a code enforcement officer. Mr. Haney brought some very valid points to ways to potentially make this ordinance much better. First is trying to amend the entire ordinance at the third and final reading, and with a public hearing behind it. I would like to later bring this ordinance before the Law Enforcement, Public Health and Safety Committee for further review, to see what improvements we can make, and really go through the full process. As far as the changes within the ordinance that originally came about, I agree with as far as separating the duties, law enforcement officer, code enforcement officer. But I would like to make one change, because I think it's simple, that we can do now to make it clearer, and that's to do with the lawful recycling being exempted from being included as litter. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to amend the definition of litter found in section 12, 175 of the ordinance, to add lawful recycling is excluded from this definition of litter.
Motion to approve the amendment.
This is motion, so you just need a second.
Oh, you made the motion, excuse me. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the amendment?
So lawful recycling would be exempted from the types of, and I'm sorry, I'm looking here on my phone because I don't have my iPad with me.
He's adding to the definition of litter under 12-175. Lawful recycling is excluded from this definition of littering. I think if you look at recycling and both recyclable materials and recycling, you'll understand that those are being taken care of in a process that is lawful. So they're in a container or they're being processed for recycling. So it wouldn't fit the definition of litter necessarily, which, as it's stated now, and it's been stated for the last, I guess, 10 or so years, includes solid waste which is not stored in secure solid waste receptacles or otherwise not held or disposed of in a manner consistent with law. So that would exclude recyclables, but I think what Mr. Durham is doing is making it more clear that recyclables are absolutely excluded from littering the process that recycling is.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I'm not.
Okay.
So the recyclables, lawful recycling, is that ever, I mean, I see recycling is defined, which said, means any process by which recyclable materials are collected, separated, processed, and reused or returned to use in the form of raw materials or products. And we have a definition of lawful recycling somewhere in our code to say how that should be dealt with.
Yes, within the solid waste provisions, that we have these same definitions for recyclable materials and recycling, and it talks about how to handle recyclable materials through our convenience center for the most part. You know, how to properly dispose of them there, how to get them there, process them there, get them in the right containers. So it's addressed in that. That's local ordinances. Obviously, within state law, there's DHEC regulations that speak to the same issues.
I mean, that sounds good to me. You know, we don't want to impede recycling efforts, whether at the local level or any other level. But like you said, Mr. Durham, this is meant to try to differentiate between the code enforcement and the law enforcement, litter enforcement provisions. And a lot of the things the gentleman complained about are not even provisions that are to be changed, so to speak. And on third reading, obviously, it's like, all right, well, why did it get this far if there's all these problems with it? I mean, this came from the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee, which you chair, and it's passed two readings.
That's correct.
I mean, I'm certainly open to, for my part, to amendments, but it's an awful lot of changes he mentioned to try to amend here.
Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting all these changes.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting the change for the lawful recycling to be included as exempt from being considered litter. With all the changes mentioned, I am going to put it on the agenda at a future date for law enforcement, public health, so that it can go through the full process and be properly vetted.
Okay. That's...
Any other discussion?
I do know it's already been through the process. I mean, I was on the law enforcement when it came through the first time. And I do agree with what you're talking about on the recycling. I know we define it. I have no issue including it in there, and I don't think that's a huge change coming in the third reading that is any kind of issue to have that on there as an amendment. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? If none, all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we need any discussion on the amended motion.
I'd like to say a few words. A few good points that Mr. Haney brought up. And if we want to take litter seriously and clean it up, and I brought it up earlier in the year, we do need some form of brown goods containers, such as Pickens County has at the convenience centers. Because if you live in some of the further outreaching parts of the county, to get a mattress or box spring all the way to Seneca, it's a long haul. especially for some people with lesser means than others. The easier we can make it, the better. Also, safety of somebody traveling some of these big bulky items down. I've been to 3 Pickens County convenience centers. I don't know if all of them do, but the 3 that I have been to, it's like your convenience centers. They have a can, in a pit. You pull up and you can dump your brown goods in. And that would certainly, most people are not just going to throw some of this material in a ravine, but some are. If it's easier for them to just dump it in a ravine on the side of the road, that's what they're going to do. But if we can make it as easy as we can on the citizens, that's going to deter some of that and then keep our county cleaner. So,
Any other discussion on the amended motion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Third reading of ordinance 2021-10, an ordinance repealing ordinance 2021-04, which required individuals to wear face coverings in certain facilities owned or operated by Coney County. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
I'll start the discussion. I want to amend the motion to make it effective tomorrow, May 19th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, any discussion on the amended motion?
Mr. Chairman, y'all know I've opposed this. It was in effect as an emergency ordinance before I came to council, after council was made to a regular ordinance with a sunset provision. But in my opinion, it's never been passed to begin with. I stated from the beginning, if a private business wants to put a sign on the door saying you have to have a mask on to enter, that's fine, that's their right. And I have a choice whether to do business with them or not. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice whether we do business with the county government or not. That's forced upon us. Everybody wants to talk about science. If you read the science, all the studies prior to March of 2020, it stated that not only is best case that the general population wearing masks is ineffective, worst case it could be detrimental. And if you look at the data since all this came out, the data doesn't support that mask wearing is any helpful. If you look at communities with strong, hardline mask ordinances versus ones without, the rate of increase is virtually the same. Some people last August, as some of the mask ordinances came out, say, look, the rate of infection is going down. Well, no, it's just the natural life of a virus. Late summer normally decreases. As soon as the fall hit and the winter hit, the rates was the same no matter what ordinances they had in place. But the governor said on April 28th, what's today's date? The 18th, May 18th. It's time to start getting back to normal. I'd ask cities and counties if they have restrictions out there to wrap it up. So I have this say, it looks like we're a little late to the party. In my very first council meeting, I spoke about how freedom is under attack in this country, about how we can't control what goes on in D.C., what goes on everywhere else, but we can control what happens in this county and in these chambers. And we should be the first line of defense against freedom and people's rights. And force people to wear a mask, that's violation of medical freedom. But unfortunately, we're last to defend it. We're one of the last counties here to lift a mask ordinance. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not happy about that. That's all.
I got one thing to say. I had a good friend in the neighborhood who died from coronavirus. I miss him dearly, and I asked the public, please get your vaccination. Please. It's real, and it kills. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I do have to agree with Mr. Durham that people do not have a choice on doing business with the government. They have a choice which businesses they can go to and choose which grocery store, which auto parts store, which restaurant they go to. But they don't have a choice to do business with the government. There's only one. And therefore, we must be the example and the safest place for people to do business. Our employees deserve the protection the weakest in our public deserves that protection. And I don't know what studies Mr. Durham has read or what he's citing. He didn't cite any. I don't know if QAnon's come out with anything new lately, but the Journal of American Medicine.
Hey, come on.
The Journal of American Medicine on February 10th, 2021, published a peer-reviewed article, Effectiveness of Mask Wearing to Control Community Spread of SARS-CoV-2 Prior to the Coronavirus 2019 COVID-19 pandemic. The efficacy of community mask wearing to reduce the spread of respiratory infections was controversial because there were no solid relevant data to support their use. During the pandemic, the scientific evidence has increased. Compelling data now demonstrate that community mask wearing is an effective, non-pharmacologic intervention to reduce the spread of this infection, especially as source control to prevent spread from infected persons, but also as protection to reduce wearers' exposure to infection. And it goes on for many, many, many pages, and there are citations to it throughout this peer-reviewed article. And I know the CDC, thankfully, has said those who are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, no longer need to wear masks indoors. I wear mine purely out of strict compliance with the current ordinance that's on the books. And I am happy that guidance has come out, and I, along with Mr. Chair here, encourage everyone to get vaccinated so we can put this pandemic to rest once and for all. Stop the conspiracy theories from spreading through this society like wildfire. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to say something about him. I don't know if it's time for me to or not, but I'd like to say this. Kane.
Sir, you had your chance doing public hearings.
Well, I'm gonna say this anyways. You just took it off to do the reading, buddy. You didn't strictly comply. We don't hear that crap.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the amended motion? Aye. Any opposed? Second reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2021-11, an ordinance establishing Chapter 40 of the Coney County Code of Ordinances entitled Cultural and Historical Preservation and enacting Article 5 thereto, captioned Protection of Historical Memorials. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Second reading of ordinance 2021-12, an ordinance consenting to the transfer of certain real property that has been forfeited to the office of the Coney County Sheriff, authorizing the county administrator to take certain actions in relation thereto and other related matters. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, what kind of action would the administrator take to this? A judge has already ruled that this is binding. What are you going to do, Ms. Brock?
I was going to ask if that's okay. Mr. Hart, I think Mr. Root is more suited for that.
Okay.
This is an administrative change, more or less.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the state statute that speaks to the forfeiture proceedings, usually it's in the context of drug seizures, property seized, and then the judge goes through the forfeiture proceedings and issues an order that deeds the property usually over to, in our case, the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office really isn't an entity. The sheriff kind of himself is an entity separate from county government, but it's a little bit murky. And when you have an order that's deeded to the Oconee County Sheriff's Office, which really isn't an entity like a corporation like the county is, somebody who's wanting to purchase the property or a title insurance company may say, hey, does the county have any interest in this? All this does is allow Ms. Brock to say, we don't have an interest to the extent we did, or someone thought we did, we quit claiming. So it's just any interest that we may have is yours. So that's the extent of it.
That's the reason I was wondering, because I knew the judge had already signed it, and it was, as far as I was concerned, taken care of.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? First reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2021-01. An ordinance to establish the budget for Oconee County and provide for the levy of taxes for ordinary county purposes for the Tri-County Technical College Special Revenue Fund, for the Emergency Service Protection Special Revenue Fund, for the Road Maintenance Special Revenue Fund, for the Bridge and Culvert Capital Project Fund, for the Economic Development Capital Project Fund, for the Debt Service Fund, for the Victim Services Special Revenue Funds, for the Capital Vehicle Equipment Fund, and all in Oconee County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Elliott?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman. So I want to say that I 100% support a cost of living increase for county employees. You know, just because you work for the county doesn't mean you don't deserve to earn a living. You know, we're in a tight labor market. You go out here and look, everybody's hiring. This retail chain in Seneca that's hiring for $17 an hour, and that includes benefits. And the services that the county provides is essential and vital to the county citizens. And if you don't have periodic cost of living increases, those services will not be able to be provided because you won't have any employees. With that being said, otherwise, I can't support this budget as written. Budget as written includes a $4.5 million increase over last year's budget. That's nearly 8.5% of an increase. If you go back another year, it's another 8% increase, or almost $8 million, for a total of 16%. There's 15 positions being added. Some of them I support, some of them I advocated for, some of them I don't. I do not support an additional code enforcement officer. Until recently, we went 10 months with the position vacant. And now all of a sudden we need 2. This added position is going to grow government. It's going to grow government intrusion into our lives. The people of Oconee County do not want or need somebody breathing down their neck. And our goal was not, or our role was not to be the HOA board for Oconee County. I don't agree with a communication specialist. You can't convince me that you can keep a communication specialist communicating with the media busy for 40 hours a week in Oconee County. That's probably a good role, but should probably be coupled with other job and other responsibilities. We're going to discuss or be discussing a $15 million in federal money that's going to be coming to the county due to some of the COVID relief bills that's been passed. That's just a drop in the bucket to the trillions of dollars that's been spent. You know, like a banana republic, the Federal Reserve has been using printing money to buy our private and public debt. And it's a shell game intended to keep interest rates down and keep the economy from collapsing. So the Biden administration is looking at spending another $1.8 trillion for families and children, and another $2 trillion for infrastructure. If those pass, you're looking at $8 trillion in nearly 18 months. So the Treasury borrows and issues notes and bonds, and the Fed buys much of it with printing money to keep interest rates down. So you probably say, why am I talking about this, right? We're talking about the county budget. Well, borrowing and printing money is going to go one or two ways for us, and neither way is good. Either the Fed's going to stop buying debt, causing interest rates to rise, and the economy starts to collapse, or the Fed continues to buy debt with printed money, and the economy collapses on the weight of inflation. Either way, a dire financial situation is in the future. And it's upon us to make sure that Oconee County is as ready and prepared as can be. We must get out of the mindset of spending every dime of new revenue that the county receives, and we must build back up our fund balance. And you know, if we have some extra revenue, what's wrong with giving it back to the citizens? So I campaign on putting a stop to wasteful spending and putting a stop to unnecessary growth of the county government. And with 64% of the vote, I'd say that's what the people of District 2 want. But it's not just District 2. Each and every one of us campaign on the budget, And that's why the people put us here. Mr. Hart, you and Mr. Davis, I know both of y'all, at least for your first term campaign on finances. Mr. Elliott, you campaigned hard on financial responsibility and restoring the fund balance, and you won a decisive victory in the primary, and it's one of the only members on this, or the only member on this council who's had the fortunate opportunity to run against a declared Democrat. You also won handily in the general election, all campaigning on financial responsibility. Mr. Kane, after your election in 2014, you said that the people of District 3 have elected a true fiscal conservative. Not to pick on you, Mr. Kane, I know you're only one of 5 votes, but as the longest serving member on this council in a little over 6 years of service, the general fund budget has increased by a little over $15 million, or close to 28%. The county is growing, but it's not growing at that rate. People of Coney County do not desire a larger county government, as evidenced by the election of each one of us up here. We need to honor our campaign promises and place financial growth restraints on the county government. So I will not be voting for the first reading of this budget, and I request each one of you to not as well. So what we need to do, we need to join back together for a budget workshop, an actual budget workshop, not a 45-minute presentation where we all walk away glassy-eyed. A budget workshop where we can go through and we can dig through this and make sure we're doing the right thing for the people of Oconee County. And if we do that, I feel confident we can walk away with a more sensible budget. That's all.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. I too look at this budget. If we got this excess money that we're going to spend, that tells me one thing, that our citizens are being taxed too much. So I would like to see some of that returned back to the citizens, for the simple reason that when I came in here, I didn't want any more taxes increase, and since we had to increase taxes, I'd like to roll it back so when I leave office, I'll be at zero. I won't have added anything to the tax roll, and as far as I'm concerned, we ought to be giving the taxpayers some money back.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious what the proposed amendments are from Mr. Durham, Mr. Hart. I know Mr. Durham said he doesn't think we need a code enforcement officer, and he doesn't think we need a communications director, but I didn't hear anything else.
The summary of what I'm saying is, we need to vote down this budget as written. We need to come back for an actual budget workshop, not a 40-minute PowerPoint presentation. I don't care if we're here for 13 hours. As a group of 5 elected members, we can comb through the budget and come up with good savings for the people of Oconee County.
We're discussing it right now. If you have any, I mean, it's on first reading. What are your proposed amendments?
So are you against coming in later this week and having a budget workshop and open discussion, line item by line item on the budget?
I'm not opposed to it, but that's kind of late notice.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'd have to have better notice.
I think we'll.
Did you not amend the budget last year?
Yeah, we generally amend the budget every year depending on what the actual revenues are realized by the government.
Workshop. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
You know, last year this time, you stepped forward and said we needed to go back to the 2019 budget and accept it. We're in the same situation that we were last year when everybody was hurting. Take the city of Seneca. They can't pay their sewer bill. And the sewer authority cannot operate without Seneca's money, so they're wanting to put a gun to our head for us to loan them a $1.5 million. So what that amounts to is that the taxpayers of Oconee County are being asked to pay the sewer bill for the city of Seneca. Now, that is 2 examples of people that are hurting, but there are other businesses that just have not got back on their feet. And just like you said last year, people are hurting. I think we ought to show a little sympathy and do something to this to where we're not grabbing all this money and throwing it away.
What I said last year was no tax increase, which meant we went back to the former budget. And we're not having a tax increase this year either.
Whole goal, there's no comments allowed from out there, please, thank you. The whole reason why we do, things from a standpoint of attracting the industry in the county is to help grow the tax basis without, making additional taxation to the citizens, and we've done a good job of that. That's one of the reasons why we're spending the millions of dollars running sewer down to 85 in District 5, that we've done, and, the Thornfield, as some people call it. I think it's a good investment to run sewer down there, which is why I'm a big proponent of it. We don't have to do that. We could take all that money and do something else with it, or give it back to the citizens per se, but I know that that has continually been voted on to match those funds that we've been given, because it's in the best interest of this county to continue to move forward, to continue to attract those industries. So, the millions of dollars that's been spent has been a lot in District 5, and I'm a complete supporter of that, because to me, that is where the growth in the industry will be attracted to there. And I am in favor of that, will continue to be in favor of that, as well as I am getting it to Exit 4 in District 5. The things that I see that we've done is, Ms. Brock has offered to sit down with everybody in here. I've sat down with her on 3 occasions. Every single year I've sat down with her on multiple occasions to go through it line item by line item, and bring those back in our budget workshops to sit down and talk about it and any changes that I had. And unless I'm wrong, I believe that opportunity has been given to every council member here. I've spent about 2.5 hours going through it. So, to me, as we continue to work forward, the things that I've tried to make sure of is that we don't have changes after public hearing and into the 3rd reading on the budget that I feel is unfair for a citizen to come up and speak on public hearing, and then we change it before we get to 3rd reading. And that happened while I was on, I think it was my 1st or 2nd year on council. And that's not fair, because the person doesn't have it sitting in front of them. We've added more public hearings to the budget, which is great. We've had longer time periods in between the two, which is great. And those amendments can be brought forth as we're working through 1st, 2nd, and public hearing, and 3rd reading. So I'm in favor of the budget as it stands for 1st reading tonight.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. We have a monster here that we're feeding called Oconee County government. And what we need to be doing is trying to curb it or hold it down, or maybe put it on a diet. And we're not doing this adding 15 more employees. I remember when Ms. Cammick was here, to keep from having to raise taxes, we cut 15 employees. So this monster, if you got 15 more employees, in number of years down the road, you still got to pay those employees. That money's not going away, and all you're doing is just adding to the future budgets, making it for where it's going to be more. And I'm not for that.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I would just say, as we look at the amount of growth that we're experiencing in Oconee County over the past 10 years, I think approximately 5,000 new people have moved to our county. If we want to just be reactive, and if we want to just not plan, and we want to cut jobs and say, well, yeah, 5,000 more people moved here, but we don't need to add any new positions, we'll just make them more efficient. Let's not fully fund the capital investments we make here. Let's just keep fixing this broken stuff that is unfixable. Let's just keep throwing good money after bad. Then we can roll back the taxes. Heck, we can go back to Stone Age if you like. We can start shutting down departments here. Maybe we just have a roads department. I don't know. Law enforcement, some of those people in those new positions. I think we're required to have a sheriff's department. But what are your proposals? What are you saying, what is your motion to amend the budget?
Well, I want to cut out the new employees is one, and the increase that we've got, when I come on here, I think it was like 47,000, and now we're up close to 57,000. Can anybody in this county see that we've got $10 million worth of better service in the last 5 years?
Yes.
I can't believe that anybody can say that.
I think we did agree in the strategic planning, all five of us, that we needed more sheriff's officers, if I remember right.
Mr. Chairman, $5,000 increase in population is nowhere near the growth in the county of 28% in the last 6 or 7 years in the county budget. And the prior 5 years prior to that, Hoover was on council. I think they had a combined growth of the budget of about 2.5%, 3%, somewhere there. So growth is going up exponentially of the county budget.
A large portion of that, Mr. Chair, was due to funding the capital vehicle replacement. Also, putting school resource officers in every public school in this county. Those people that I'm very glad we have, cost money. There's no two ways about it. Either you value it and you fund it, or you don't value it and you don't fund it. But you can't value it and not fund it. It doesn't work. And you know, I hear a lot of supposed support for law enforcement, but those tax increases, a lot of that went to taking care of equipment that was well beyond its useful life, depreciated down to nothing. And I mean, we had hired school resource officers that didn't have vehicles for them. I mean, that was, we're talking about what Ms. Kamick's legacy was. That's what that was. We funded these positions. They didn't have cars. So, I mean, we've had to address some deferred issues over time. And I think due to being in the right place at the right time, we're lucky because we happen to live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. And a lot of people want to be here. But we've also, our staff and our department heads have made excellent decisions to put us in a position to where people want to move here, people want to visit here, people want to start businesses here and expand their businesses here. So, I mean, you're right. I campaigned as a fiscal conservative, and I would say, looking back on that, those were necessary increases. I'm sorry that there were increases necessary. But when the public comes in and says, we want school resource officers in our schools, well, we don't have money for that. What are you going to do? You got to raise taxes. And so we did. Thank God. We haven't had any incidents, but, you know, I think we're being good stewards. I know people will disagree with that, but I'm just asking for specific amendments to the budget that y'all are proposing, rather than just saying, oh, I'm opposed to it altogether.
How about let's make an amendment to the budget to go to the fiscal year 2021 budget plus the cost of living increase for employees. I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that?
So that would take away how many, Ms. Brock, what are those positions?
The positions as presented on May 4th are inclusive of 2 sheriff's deputies, the transfer of a deputy from Pine Street Security back to the sheriff's office potentially, 2 communications employees, both of those work in the 911 dispatch center that handle, obviously, 911 calls, 2 correctional officers at the Oconee County Detention Center, the funding for the administrative position at the solicitor's office, because in order for cases to be prosecuted, the wheels of the justice system and the judicial departments must be in balance. Fire and emergency services, we hired, or the proposal is for a fire marshal position, 3 firefighter positions, which is technically 1 shift. It would put an extra crew out there. There's net savings for the career center instructor on that one. In the administrator's office, per council request, was a communication specialist. The planning office was an additional code enforcement officer. in the road department was a stormwater engineer. At South Cove, we had a park ranger 1 position. The total for all of the positions, including the anticipated savings from eliminating 2 of the other positions, was $796,073.
A long ways from 4 million.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Just that I understand Mr. Durham's motion is to eliminate those positions as discussed. What I understand the motion.
Well, it's not eliminating a position, it's the Holder County
Well,
budget.
it's not funding the
Yes,
position.
it's not eliminating current positions.
Okay, but those positions that she discussed, it's not funding any of those new positions.
That's correct.
Okay.
And law enforcement.
Okay.
What about the,
I stand by, to me, we should have had another 2 or 3 deputies on there, but from a standpoint of, after speaking with Sheriff Crenshaw, hiring, it is difficult to hire a large sum of deputies at the same time, and I believe in the phase-in approach to get us back to where we need to be over the next 2 or 3 years. So I will not vote to remove any deputies in this year's budget, and wish we could add more on the training side of things for what we're trying to do. I think this is a amazing place to live. I've lived here my whole life. We've continued to create a safe environment to live in. And we start touching into these, and I've heard it from especially these outlying districts of, I don't see a deputy out here, or it takes 30 minutes to get a deputy, but here we stand tonight with a motion to remove those deputies that we're trying to add. And we're not adding enough deputies. I'll say it right now. I don't think we need 17, but we need more than what we're adding in here. But we're trying to phase in the approach, trying to make smart moves to bring industry in, to grow our taxes different from our household. That's not what we should be focused on, is taxing our people. We need to be growing our economy in industry and divisiveness in different areas. So when we have an issue like what we had with this pandemic come through, Oconee County was strong in it because councils before us and administrators have made good decisions. Not all good decisions, but have made good decisions to have different kinds of industry in here. So to make a motion to remove, especially, an officers that we have in there, and fire, I mean, those are the things that we get the most complaints about. So,
Mr. Chairman? You know what, Mr. Davis, you're absolutely correct. And that's why I asked for an additional budget workshop where we dig into this. If you look at the added positions, $700-something thousand. The raises is $600-something thousand, so 1.3, 1.4 million versus 4+ million for the total budget. So I agree with you. So I'll make a motion to amend my amendment to include the current year's fiscal budget plus the pay raises plus the additional personnel.
Okay, so we got two amendments.
So I amended my first amendment.
yeah, I think probably you got a second on it if Mr. Hart just consents to withdrawal of the first motion, since he seconded it.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so then the new motion is as stated was,
Let's go back to the fiscal year 2021 budget with the addition of the public safety positions and a cost of living increase for the employees.
that's the new motion to amend, and it needs a second to go further.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the new amendment?
so now we just don't have the firemen. And
Is fireman public safety?
that's what I'm asking. That's what
I said the public safety employees.
So any other discussion on the new amendment?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I know Mr. Durham doesn't believe we need a code enforcement officer, but the fact that it was vacant for 10 months doesn't mean we don't need one. It just means it's apparently pretty hard to find somebody to serve in that role. It's a pretty I think the person, are they still with us, the one that,
Yes, sir.
so we had somebody on the job for what, 3 months recently? 2 months?
2 months roughly, yes, sir.
I heard it was 5 weeks.
Okay, 5 weeks, whatever you heard. So this gentleman didn't stay on the job very long, so it's clearly a difficult position to keep filled. And I think this actually would give us some continuity, because at any given time, we're likely going to have one of these 2 code enforcement officer positions vacant. So if it's vacant, we're not paying them, right? We don't pay anybody if there's nobody in the job, right, Amanda? Is that
Correct.
okay. Just making sure. So it's vacant for 10 months, so we didn't pay him for 10 months. And if we always have one vacant, that means we have some continuity, because we have a serious backlog, especially, I know in my district in Utica, and I don't know if you have any suggestions on how to address these issues, humanitarian issues we're seeing over there, without code enforcement.
The code enforcement officer is not it. I'll tell you that.
It's not what?
It's not the answer to Utica. A
Okay.
code enforcement officer walking to Utica, write them a citation, they go in that same pile of garbage that's laying there.
That's not my
So
experience.
those resources could be used, instead of a growing government for additional position, because you think we might have vacancies, those resources could have been put to use in some way to help Utica. Writing them a citation is not helping them.
So we have the property maintenance code on the books. You're saying do not enforce that, and instead just leave that position, just eliminate those positions. And so how do we address people who are leaving their property, certain places over there where they're vacant, they're non, what do you call them? Not present landowners who rent the property, and or just let it dilapidate into nothing. A bunch of snakes and rats and vines grow
Not
up.
snakes and rats, that's for sure. If you would go look at Utica, you tell me that a code, you can look me in the eye and you think a code enforcement officer is gonna help Utica.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
You're more delusional than I ever thought. That's all I got to say.
Okay, that's fine, but I mean, that's clearly an answer that's been used across this country to address blighted areas like Utica. I mean, it's not the silver bullet, but it is a piece of the solution. I mean, we're doing a lot of things over there, and a lot of groups other than government are doing a lot of things over there to assist with that situation. But Oconee County certainly, I think, has a role in code enforcement in Utica.
As long as you buy the property. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, all in favor of the amendment? All opposed of the amendment? Aye. So we're back to the original motion, it's been seconded, any discussion on the original motion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ordinance 2021-02, an ordinance to establish the budget for the school district of Oconee County and to provide for the levy of taxes for the operations of the school district of Oconee County for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending July 30th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so I'm gonna vote for this, but the school district's gonna have to start getting their house in order. After multiple years of deficit spending, this budget year they have a balanced budget, but only because they're able to allocate $2 million in COVID relief funds to cover some 24 positions and some software. Now, 9% of the cost is salaries, but at nearly $15,000 per student, if you have a class of 25 students, that's a whole lot of dough. And the classroom teacher, the one that's in the trenches, she sure ain't getting all that dough, or he. Many times they're left to purchase their own supplies. So I don't know what the problem is in spending in the school district. Maybe they got too many chiefs. I don't know, but I have a 4-year term. It means I'm going to do this 3 more times. And we need to start seeing some progress out of the school district closing that deficit gap. That's all.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District and to establish the budget for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Let's see, first and final reading is none scheduled. Discussion regarding action items. Council consideration, discussion regarding the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. I'll start the discussion about the fact that I want to see $2 million go to close the town of Salem's water loop, and I'm going to have Mr. Ryan Hardin come June the 1st, and give us some more information on that so we can take action on that. Other items that we've talked about before is sewer to exit 4. Ms. Brock, do we have any guesstimate on how much that would cost?
Mr. Chairman, at this time we do not. We are looking within the next 3 weeks at issuing an RFP for a basin study for exits 1 and 2. We are currently, as you all know, underway with the basin study on exit 4, and that should give us a feasible cost estimate and anticipated timeline for completion. Once that has gone out to bid and we start receiving information back, of course, all council members will receive that. I just have 1 second. Mr. Hart has been an enormous help with the contacts he has in fair play with us getting easements for the current project we're working on. We've hit some stumbling blocks, and it's a slow but steady process, and we do anticipate having that easement acquisition and easement agreement process done, hopefully by the end of June.
Other items that people...
Yes. Not only do we need to be at exit 4, we're gonna have the main trunk line there. We're gonna have supply lines running off to supply this main trunk line. When I say this, the Methodist Church, they're wanting to be on the sewer. And a lot of businesses there in Fairplay are wanting it. And we're gonna have to get some type of a line to where we can reach out and get those other customers and get them on to that line, and that's gonna cost money.
We have to, December 31st, 2024, is that correct?
That's correct, to encumber the funds, so you can still, if a project started then and the funds are encumbered, you can still pay out until 26.
Okay. Because it seems to take sewer a long time, doesn't it, Glenn? Any other items that you want to mention?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm looking through these, I've read some guidance on this program, these funds that are coming, how it can be used. And some of the eligible services, which I think we ought to at least look at in terms of funding with this one-time money. Community violence intervention programs, building stronger neighborhoods and communities, including supportive housing and other services for individuals experiencing homelessness, development of affordable housing, addressing educational disparities exacerbated by COVID-19, including early learning services, increasing resources for high poverty school districts, educational services like tutoring or after-school programs, and supports for students' social, emotional, and mental health needs. And I know that our school district is also receiving funding for this, but I don't think we ought to rule anything out at this point. There are some programs I know being provided at Blue Ridge Community Center, after-school programs, trying to get everybody by the time they reach 3rd grade to be on grade reading level, which is so important. Reading and literacy is probably the most important thing you can learn in school. Being able to read will change your life. Not being able to read will keep you from reaching your full potential. And I think we should, I know this has been I'm thankful my child isn't old enough yet to be in school, but I know this has been devastating for folks with kids in school. And I'm grateful for the school district for getting those kids back in there. safely, but we've got to make sure that we make sure these kids are brought back to the level that they should be at as quickly as possible, so there's not this long-term lag among our students. We should have the best students in this country, and I expect that, and I hope that we can help bridge that gap.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
One thing Dr. Thorson and the school district talked about when they was in here, and I greatly appreciate, they said they was, with their COVID money, that they was gonna be careful not to spend it in such a way that would incur reoccurring costs after that money's gone. So I'd like to encourage the council here to think along that same mindset as we get ready to go forward with this. That's all.
Mr. Chair, a couple other points here that are a little different, but I think that the events of last week or the weeks prior with the hacking of the pipeline, there's also guidance here in the interim final rule says modernization of cybersecurity, including hardware, software, and protection of critical infrastructure. We need to harden our infrastructure to the greatest extent possible, as reasonably we can. I mean, the federal government gets hacked, but we can do all we can here to make sure that it is very, very difficult for bad actors to break into our secure network. So I think that's another use of funds that we may be able to plan and move forward into the future to make things both safer, as well as maybe we can offer some services remotely due to the coronavirus. Things that, Mr. Hart has been big, and I appreciate that from my industry, on pushing for scanning of plats and scanning of deeds and going way back. If those things are online, if our other resources are online, folks don't have to come up here. They can not only be safe if we have another pandemic, but they can save money by being available at their home computer, at their office computer. So I think technological advancements that we can do to make the government run more efficient and be able to do things remotely is key as well.
Any other ideas or items we want to look at? And I'm sure we'll have more discussion in further meetings as things come up.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay. Council committee reports, law enforcement, public safety, health and welfare, Mr. Durham.
Okay, so the Law Enforcement, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare Committee met April 20th, 2021. We started off with a presentation of Emergency Water Safety Protection Grant and Progress Update. Chief Scott Cron, Director of Emergency Services. The EWP program is designed to help communities and conserve natural resources by relieving imminent hazards to life and property caused by floods, fires, windstorms, and other natural occurrences. Ms. Cron also laid out the benefits of completing the work from the Disaster Survey Report, also known as DSR. Phase 1 projects is county roads and bridges projects for a match, and Phase 2 projects is dependent on a match. The committee took no action on this matter. Next up was a presentation from Mr. Mike Smith on the Planning Commission. Mr. Planning Commission Chairman. He addressed the committee and gave a brief presentation of the 2010 through 2020 Collision and Injury Report, the primary contributing factors for collisions, frequently primary contributing factors for non-fatal injury collisions and fatal collisions, and broader objectives for improving road safety. The committee took no action on this matter. Next, we had a discussion regarding proposed cultural and historical preservation ordinance. Mr. Luther Lyle, Director and Curator of the Museum of the Cherokee, addressed the committee. He gave a brief overview regarding the historical markers, war memorials in the county. I made a motion that was seconded by Mr. Davis. We passed 3-0 to refer the ordinance as written, including the highlighted section, to full council for consideration. We also had a discussion regarding proposed forfeited property ordinance. Mr. Root gave a brief overview of the proposed ordinance. made a motion, and it was seconded by Mr. Elliott, passed 3-0 for the ordinance to the full council. Next, we had a discussion regarding tornado shelters. So it was noted that last year South Carolina had 62 tornadoes, with Oconee County, us having a very significant tornado in Seneca, costing one life. I was very fortunate not to lose many, many more. So the discussion was using county buildings, municipal buildings as a partnership to locate safe buildings that could open up for shelters, say one of these long track storms that's coming through, like what happened last April. So there was the consensus, the action that was taken was consensus of the committee for staff to start preliminary identification of institutions, we would call them anchor institutions, inside the community to begin that process. The next Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. It's going to be held immediately following the Transportation Committee meeting, which is held at 4:30. That's all.
Board and commission appointments, Building Codes Appeals Board. We've got one at-large seat, no questionnaires on file for this seat. Council will go into executive session for the following purposes: receive legal advice and discuss contractual matter regarding county broadband network. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Make a motion.
All in favor? Aye. to go out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Root?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, prior to first reading on ordinance 2021-13, need a motion relating to the executive session item to direct staff to continue negotiations as discussed.
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, sir.
First reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2021-13, an ordinance, one, approving the assignment of One Tone Telecom, Inc.'s interest in that certain network master agreement dated January 18th, 2017, to Upcountry Fiber LLC, a wholly owned subsidiary of Blue Ridge Electric Cooperative, Inc. Two, approving an amended and restated network master agreement between Upcountry Fiber LLC and Oconee County. Three, authorizing the Oconee County Administrator to execute the amended and restated network master agreement. And four, other related matters. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.